Okay, now that you understand the basic objectives of creating the new plan, I'd like to talk a little bit about Market America and the unfranchised genesis and evolution or history that led us up to where we are today. Now, when the vision and blueprint for the company was set forth, the following principles were put into place as the foundation of the MA unfranchised system, MPCP, and business opportunity and model. This is what made it happen. So the first concept was to provide the solution for average people wanting to be entrepreneurs with a more realistic and profitable compensation plan. Bottom line. This required a new plan, a new system and model, and the objective was to provide an alternative to eliminate the repeating problems found in the direct sales or network marketing programs and companies. So we created a program that addressed the repeating problems and plagued the industry that we came from, which is direct sales and network marketing. It was based on a belief that we could change the industry by providing a solution and a revolutionary plan that rethought everything, as most models were based on old models emerging in the 1950s and were just spin-offs or various variations of the same dynamics and mathematics. This threw all of that out and rethought it. So we rethought everything. New dynamics, new mathematics, leveraging technology and development of a tracking system. Now, those antiquated plans from the past required too many people and too much volume for any one person to make money. This seemed to leave a trail of disappointment or failure behind them, while there was fewer that reached significant income levels. Now, anyone could potentially make it, but it wasn't based on what average people were statistically proven to be able to do. So each individual needed to have numerous directly sponsored people or distributors, referred to as legs, in order to generate enough income or enough volume collectively, but it was divided amongst them in smaller monthly amounts in order to hit or maintain the management level at the higher percentage or commission rate. So mathematically, the larger combined volume put the manager at a higher percentage and the 6 to 20 legs at a lower commission percentage, and the leader or manager made the difference, the differential. That's basically horizontal marketing. For instance, the manager at a collective volume of, say, 10,000 is paid at 25%, and the sponsored individual or leg is at 1,000 and at 12%, yielding a profit to the manager of 13% or $130. Now, obviously, that requires a lot of sponsored people and legs to make a significant income. 10 legs like this would yield just $1,300 per month. Therefore, the horizontal model's nature requires many distributors directly off of one person to make significant money, say 6 to 20. And that had to be duplicated level after level in order to be sustainable, because each tier had to make enough money too to continue. Therefore, sponsoring 6 to 12, which each doing a smaller amount of volume, equaled a larger aggregate volume for the sponsor. And that was absolutely necessary for the plan to be profitable or work. So the higher level director or manager title, whatever it is, was commissioned at a higher percentage, say 25%. The basis behind this model was similar in this way to other traditional business models, the way they worked mathematically, whether it was just 2 horizontal levels or multiple, 3 or more levels, like the company and the agent, or the company and a regional agency, and then the individual agencies. So this involved multiple levels using an intermediate tier for regionally or geographically having a layer of management, such as a master unfranchise or a regional sales manager or a chain store divisions with state or region managing agencies over many local real estate offices, or in financial planning, having a regional tier of management and then individual agencies. So this math dynamic is used in franchising, real estate, insurance, chain stores, or mass product marketing companies. It's not new. So this is the same concept, but doesn't require duplicating it for unlimited successive tiers as an MLM or multi-level marketing. You see, that exponentially increases the number of people in business for each person to be profitable or successful on successive levels, level after level. The binomial system used in the MPCP totally eliminates this and solves it. It was never done before in a vertical model. So this addresses the age-old problem of what's called width versus depth in networking, and basically what that means, width or horizontal expansion is needed for profitability versus depth below each leg and vertical duplication for security in the network marketing or MLM program, because those people have to make money too or they're not going to stay. So you have to do it over and over and over again horizontally, tier after tier, multiplying the number of people required to succeed. Now, this refers to the constant antagonistic challenge or balancing width for profitability versus depth for security or stability. Width is sponsoring and adding legs horizontally in order to be profitable. Depth is building business under each leg vertically in order to increase volume and help build each horizontal personally sponsored leg to develop an income so that they stay in. Do you see that point? You see, this is very difficult to do in reality, and it spreads one thin. And the process of width versus depth compete for one's time, which one quickly runs out of, and one of the two concepts of width or depth suffers. So this brings up the fundamental problem that contributes to the downfall of these types of models. Every person in width in the horizontal model are in competition with all the others and have no incentive to work together. The process has to be repeated over and over again, level after level, resulting in exponentially larger numbers of people at the baseline, decreasing the profitability of individual success, or the probability of individual success, and leaving a trail of failure or fallout behind them. So now this is very important. It is statistically unrealistic for average people to do this because industry studies quoted by the DSA state that the average person sponsors less than 3 people, which is less than is needed in these models to make even a supplemental income. So that's why Market America binomial structure only requires 2 legs per unfranchised owner, or BDC. It is in line with reality, and it's what average people have been proven to be able to do. So we figured out the most money that could be paid on 2 legs, which exceeds that of what can be made on 6 to 20 legs in a horizontal or networking or MLM program. That's genius. So the next problem is negative incentives. This is a big one. Now, I know that this goes on for a while, it's kind of long, but it's like a college course. Do you really want to understand the business or not? So the biggest problem is the inherent negative economic incentive in the dynamics of the plan. As each person or leg climbs in volume, the leg makes more, that individual person, and the manager or sponsor above makes less. So it's against the manager's economic incentive to help the person grow because they start making less. They're antagonistic. So when and if a leg successfully duplicates and climbs to the same level as the manager and are at the top percentage on the ladder, we're using 25% right now, the new manager that climbed breaks away and deals directly with the company. The sponsor or the manager then receives a smaller override, I call it a bone, on the new direct or manager leg of about 3%. It could be 5%. But on $10,000, that would be just $300 to $500. Now, weren't they making $1,300 per leg before? An earlier example? So that's less than they were making on the leg on the way up. And on that commission ladder. So the worst part of it is that the sponsor must now replace the volume in order to remain qualified at that level, which compels them to have to keep recruiting more to stay even with personally sponsored people to replace the volume to stay even, or they lose the full commission. Boy, that's difficult. So when people say they can't build 2 legs, I say, my goodness, you certainly don't want to do another program where you got to build 6 to 20 and replace each leg that succeeds. See, that repeats each time another horizontally sponsored leg reaches the same level and breaks off, reaches that management level. You got to replace the volume again, and you make less on them. This is why they're referred to as stair-step breakaway plans. And to some degree, they are self-defeating. They're antiquated. It's old math and old technology, not really using the full potential of computerization. Now, unfortunately, if you understand the model well enough and understand that it requires the manager buying inventory from the company and then redistributing that product to those successive levels of distributors who in turn do the same tier after tier or level after level, multiple levels, why it's called multi-level, you then begin to understand why we say we are not MLM. You get it? See, at each level, the distributor is supposed to sell the product that they do not redistribute to the next level. So they redistribute some of it to their people horizontally, and they're supposed to sell the rest of it. They don't sell it first or take orders generally. So there's no monitoring of what is sold to customers. So add to that the fact that each distributor gets paid on a sliding scale of volume and it resets to 0 at the end of the month. It's easy to see how this encourages inventory loading. I better buy it so that I don't miss out and lose the higher commission, okay? So without the product selling to customers, you don't really know what's happening, and it's probably inventory loading. The company's only answer is that they can return it for a refund if they didn't retail it. Of course, that would result in deducting the commissions they were paid on the inventory to them and the upline, and they don't want that, so they resist it. This is a compromised situation at best. Now, one additional downside or weakness of this model is that after a distributor becomes a direct manager at the top of the stair step on this graduated scale, the objective is, as difficult as it may be, to duplicate that process with their sponsored distributors for each successive levels. Now, when that is done, the upline receives a smaller override on each successive level for a specific number of direct or manager levels. It often pays on 3 to 5 levels. Now, usually something like this is what happens. Level 1, 5%, level 2, 3%, level 3, 2%, level 4, 1%. And when the real growth or action or star performer that produces explosive growth comes in eventually further in depth, it is often below the pay line or the 5th level. So there's no benefit to the original sponsor manager. And in this example, the volume being required of each management level distributor of 5,000 to 10,000 and compensating the upline or sponsor for 5 levels. Therefore, anything that is after that or below that, nothing's made on. Well, you know, in our program, it doesn't matter how deep it is. It's going to lead to somebody. Okay, so the MPC piece searches to infinity to find the volume even beyond the month, because they cut off at the end of the month and we don't. It keeps going to solve this. So the number of levels or people in the referral or sponsoring thread don't matter in our MPCP. It doesn't matter how far down the volume is generated. Everyone in the line gets credit for it, 100% credit without dilution, and are never cut out, greatly increasing the probability of individual success if you just stay in. So this led to another problematic model called matrix MLM. This was the next problem. So another model emerged in the 80s as a reaction to what I just described, to a possible solution to what I just went over. And it's called matrix plans. And this model eliminates the stair-step process of climbing a graduated scale to a direct or management level of, say, 3,000 to 10,000 volume. Instead, it requires each distributor to deal directly with the company and order directly from the company, often requiring a monthly minimum. In many cases, this became a membership or spots or positions which commissions were paid on, or a minimum product order requirement of 100 to 500. And again, it was bought and not sold. They had to buy it to stay in the game. So it's assumed that the product is consumed or retailed, but there's no requirement to prove it, that it was retailed. So the inherent nature of the program is what it is promoted to do is a multiplier effect. So when you look at it on paper, with the same horizontal dilemma of width and everybody being in competition with each other, the program is usually sold by showing a theoretical geometrical progression, with each distributor would have to repeat and duplicate the same horizontal effect over again in order to sustain itself with others making money. Because if you're just making money and they're not, it's going to fall apart. There are a variety of these models with countless variations. Fundamentally, they're characterized as 2-by matrices or 3-by or 4-by matrices. And the number of multi-levels deep that it could pay on could be 2 levels to 15 levels. So a 2-by matrix would have a binary progression of levels or spots like this per level: 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 236. The problem is every one of those levels have to be filled out with a buying distributor in order to generate the numbers that they show. They're paying a decreased percentage per level on successive levels. So on paper, the commissions calculated look attractive, but in reality, it doesn't happen. For instance, if or when someone on the 3rd or 4th level did not get the 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 below them, it created a huge void or hole with no volume. 0 times 0 is 0 money. So this would happen in multiple places in their matrix very quickly, and is often referred to as Swiss cheese effect, of being full of holes. The only remedy to this is for the upline to fill in the holes with additional people they personally recruit and who will buy in with no retail requirement. So in order to achieve what was shown in the diagrams, the upline had to fill in and sponsor more people: 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 36 more people personally, eventually becoming impossible to do. Eventually it crashes. So listen, I realize that this is a lot to absorb, but if you really want to know why we're different and better and how genius this is, you really need to understand some of these things. So the next thing that evolved in the marketplace to address this problem of matrices and Swiss cheese was a forced or compressed matrix. So in order to address the phenomena of Swiss cheese, and the companies created a forced matrix where the empty holes or Swiss cheese existed, and the spots or people and volume moved up and compressed from the bottom up to fill the holes. However, because it paid monthly and the volume reset, this was ineffective to a large extent and still had the horizontal model problem of everybody being in competition with each other, as well as still having to fill in the holes with additional sponsoring. Yeah, the volume moves up, but if there's a hole, there's no volume to move up. So when the gaps became numerous or too big, the leader or builder becomes a hamster on the treadmill or on the wheel, going faster and faster and faster just to stay even. What it actually did was to move volume up that would be off the pay line that I talked about earlier to be paid on. However, it was still a much compromised solution and still required filling in as it compressed or moved up in order to have people that were producing. So again, the existing spots or slots in the matrix rarely were based on retailing or regenerated volume, so that everyone had to generate new volume by buying again every month or recruiting new people. So they weren't selling the product, there weren't customers that were reordering, they had to rebuy or add people. Do you get that? Critical difference, and that's why we base our whole program on retailing and regenerated volume. So those are the requirements that regulators do not like, because they are massive inventory loading in smaller units and require geometrically more people recruiting or adding at the bottom without knowing if the product ever got sold or consumed, in order to support the incomes of the people above in the matrix. That is the fatal flaw. I hope you get it. Okay, stop the madness. In 1991, JR, me, asked a few mind-boggling questions that no one ever asked before and that no one could answer. The first was, why does there have to be levels at all that we're paid on? I mean, why do we have to have that? Why can't it just be a tracking system that searches infinitely below each distributor or UFO or leg for sales and volume that was sold? Why can't the volume just accumulate under each person or UFO until it reaches a level to get paid? Nobody had to answer. Why does there have to be levels for people in the genealogy? Why can't it just be a center that they accumulate volume into, and the same for everyone else? That the company searches and tracks sales from customers and their organization volume from sales, and even if it's used for consumption. Then that volume, okay, doesn't have to fill out levels. It's about accumulating to a certain level to get paid. Then no one ever goes off the pay line. If you understand what I was talking about before, it totally eliminates that. The third question was, why can't everyone in a thread or genealogy line all get 100% credit for the same volume that accumulates until they get paid, and it stays in the system until they get paid? Why can't descending dilution be eliminated of each person getting less and less and less until there's nothing left? Why can't it? Nobody had to answer. Well, why does there need to be a structure based on width for profitability? Why? Why can't profitability and security or stability both be accomplished vertically at the same time, rather than horizontal legs sponsored all in competition with each other that must repeat the same process horizontally, level after level, requiring exponentially larger number of people for anyone above the urn? It's just crazy. Why base it on 3 to 20 horizontal legs in order to be profitable when the smallest multiplier for it to work is 2? Now, you can't have a half of a person, so the smallest multiplier is 2. Remember the story, the movie story, and the concept when I realized that I needed a multiplier. It just happens to coincide with the statistic that the average person that does a business can get under 3 people, or actually 2.84. Realizing that there's a need to be a multiplier, which would, or we would run out of money otherwise, because if I gave each person $1 and it was $10 to give, 10 people later, you'd be out of money, right? But why can't it be on the smallest multiplier of 2? Well, multiplier allows that concept to work. So 2 is binary, and it's under what the DSA statistic of 2.84 shows the average person being able to do and sustain, which increases the probability of individual success, because it's in line with reality and it's based on what the average person has already been proven to do. So what is the most money that can be paid on 2 legs or threads tied to a distributor center in the genealogy or a BDC. Well, mathematically, we determined it based on the volume that it could pay $1,500 per accumulation on 5,000 in each of the two legs, or 10,000 in volume. We determined that it could be $2,100 every time or weekly that this was duplicated, with one or more duplicating in each leg, where they each earn $1,500 in the pay cycle. So that's a total actually of 30,000 in volume, and 3 people getting paid and 1 maxing out. That's the bottom line. How do we know? We ran models. We figured it out mathematically. We did the math. And it proved that it could be done when it had never been done before. So think about it. This was more than they could earn on 6 to 20 legs in MLM or network marketing, and it could be greater if it cycled weekly. I mean, 4 times 2,100 is $8,400 per month. This was unheard of. So why can't a distributor multiply their income in depth rather than the problematic model of horizontal, or adding legs in width that are all in competition with each other and there's no synergy or common economic interest? Why can't they repeat the process vertically in depth rather than horizontally in width? Well, there has to be a limit or a cap to earning on 2 legs in the accrual and infinite search structure or process, so that other people can earn as well on the same volume. What difference does it really make if the volume is there and in depth rather than in width? This would build profitability and security at the same time. Remember width versus depth, profitability versus security? This is exactly what was done with re-entries. This in itself is revolutionary. You secure your original business while you multiply your income, and everybody in between benefits it because the best people are coming back in under their team to multiply their income. Genius. So, why time limits of a month? Somebody please explain it to me. Why do we have to reset everything to 0 at the end of the month? Because all the people that didn't make it lose out, and it inures to the benefit of the people above. So the people above benefit from the people below not making it. So why does volume have to cut off and reset at the end of the month? This results in breakage between the upline above at a higher threshold and the distributor who hasn't reached the pay level. The upline makes on the downline's failure to reach the level. So this is a negative incentive, and also encourages inventory loading, because I don't want to miss a level and him make it all, I got to get it. Why can't the volume cycle weekly rather than monthly, allowing people to get paid actually 4.2 times per month if you figure it out over a year on the average? If they have accumulated enough volume, why can't the volume stay in the system for the others until it accumulates to the pay levels? And why can't the company deal directly with all the UFOs ordering and all customers by ordering online using e-commerce and a tracking system in the computer so that we know exactly what everybody did and how it connects to each individual to economically benefit them? Why can't the company handle all of the fulfillment, payment processing, delivering, and tracking? Why can't we simply tie the customer of UFOs in an organization to the UFO and track sales volume of everyone that is led to, and the tracking of customer orders and UFO purchases or sales would be accumulated from the bottom up to earn checks rather than moving product from the top down? Do you see the difference? And that's why I say it's a tracking system. And that, again, is why it's not really MLM or network marketing. Contrast this to people buying inventory and redistributing it with no metrics. This way, we have a profile and history on each and every person that buys, and we can do one-to-one marketing or mass customization, making relevant offers and matching products to the customer based on their profile, interest, and buying history. Because we know what they're buying, we know what they want. This is internet marketing, mass customization, and one-to-one marketing. Have you ever heard of that before? Here it is, incorporated and integrated into the plan. No one could answer these questions. Why? Well, the answer is it was simply never thought of before, and in the past, there wasn't the computerization to track it. It obviously would require complex tracking and programming and had to be technologically reliant and driven. Well, nobody else was willing to figure that out. So the question is, or was, why was it never done before? Isn't that the question? Why was it never done before, especially back then? Well, the answer is simple, because it was never done before. Okay? It simply was never done before, and it would take a lot to do, a totally new structure, architecture, and would require complicated programming and tracking and new mathematical models and algorithms. Well, let me ask you another question. Why was there never an Uber before? Why was there never a Google before? Why was there never a social media or Facebook before it came into being? Because nobody did it. And we decided to do this and did it. So from this thinking and reasoning, I set out to create or invent the binary marketing concept that became the binomial marketing system for Market America and the UnFranchise business model. So listen, after all of that, I'm hopeful that understanding all of this and the why behind it and how we do it and what we really are helps you be ready for the next 25 years and your own success, because that's really what it's all about. So keep growing. See you at the top.